For the general public, for those working families and people, why 2%? Why is getting it to 2% so important?
So that has become the globally agreed, essentially all major central banks target 2% inflation in one form or another.
How does that help my Nevada families? How does that help people in Nevada?
I'll tell you how it does. And it's I guess it's obviously not, it's not obvious how that is, but 2% inflation, to have people believe that inflation is going to go back to 2% really anchors inflation there, because, you know, the evidence is and the modern belief is that people's expectations about inflation actually have an effect on inflation. If you expect inflation to go up 5%, then it will. You know, if everyone kind of expects that, because that's what businesses and households will be expecting, and it'll kind of happen because they expect it. So,
all right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Campbell, and today is CPI day, and we have a polarity that exists, a duality at the moment. Check this out, okay? The fight against inflation is about to get really interesting. Here are the CPI expectations for the US. So we are coming off the back of a 3% CPI print, of course, but the one from today is expected to be slightly above that at 3.4%. And then we're pricing in currently, or at least currently expecting, I should say, a 4.1% CPI print for August. So inflation is set to begin rising again, just as a Fed pause is expected. So this is about to get super interesting. And when I said about polarity or duality, check out the complete opposite of what is going on in China, because China is officially seeing deflation. So once again, I draw my silly little pendulum with inflation on one side and deflation on the other. And of course, we swing one way and then back again. In the middle, we get the Goldilocks zone, which is where we are currently sat. This is why the market has been rallying. As I'm sure you know this, I've drawn this diagram a million times before. But for China, that pendulum is likely now on this side. So you can see consumer price index in black is officially in deflation. So is PPI, the producer price index. This is, of course, against the backdrop of them buying more and more gold, almost quadrupling its stockpile since 2009. It begs the question, doesn't it? Why would they want loads of gold? Well, is it because they're about to go and print a bunch more money to counteract this deflation again? So China has now officially entered deflation, and there's likely no way that the USA is going to allow hitting a deflating CPI print without intervention. Deflation is already over 50% of the CPI basket for China, so China is going to be terrified by this. They are going to be ready to announce stimulus plans any day now, because they cannot afford deflation. All roads eventually lead to more printing, and all printing eventually leads to higher Bitcoin prices. Whilst I'm here, notice the first line that I omitted until now. People don't think it's possible for Bitcoin to hit an all-time high before the halving. Okay, and now when I pop in here, we can see yet another person calling for all-time highs before the halving, this time at a whopping $325,000. I hate to say it, but I felt like an absolute genius when I was calling for this down here, but this seems to be becoming a more and more crowded trade by the day. The halving is just 261 days away now, so if we are going to make an all-time high before the halving, we really need to do it very, very soon. I think at the moment it seems to be more or less a 50-50 split. Half the market seems to be expecting this blow off top move to all-time highs, which then would have to resolve according to cycle theory in a 3-year secular bear market. The other idea is that we could do a standard 4-year cycle repeat as indicated in blue. But since half the market, apparently according to my perspective at least, seems to be divided between these two, that also opens up this third possibility where we make a lower high and then have some kind of horrible crash for the price of Bitcoin. Remember, markets always move to harm the most amount of participants. If everyone is expecting highs, then does it mean we're going to make a lower high? I don't really know. I'm trying to take this one day at a time as always. But the more people I see start to champion this, I mean, 325k is nonsense. That's way too high. That is way, way, way too high for a 4 or 5 month move. Even for Bitcoin, that is way too high. So the more I see this, the more I'm starting to think that this is going to have to be scratched off as an idea. Coming off the back of the PayPal announcement, in which PayPal is going to be launching its own stablecoin, Microsoft is going to explore a digital crypto payment and a CBDC. And also we've had Coinbase come out and say that they are looking into a stablecoin as well. Over in the world of Bitcoin, there are now 12 million addresses that hold more than 0.1 Bitcoin. So we continue to see accumulation, we continue to see adoption. Peter Brand here points out that even the lovers of altcoins such as Hex still agree that most altcoins are eventually going to become worthless. 99.8% of altcoins will eventually become hexed. And I'm just here to warn you again, you will have heard me say this before, all altcoin charts are eventually going to look like this. I'm convinced of this. This is why I don't really mess around with altcoins. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that because they don't want to make a 5x pump or a 10x pump in Bitcoin. They're still looking for that 100x pump. But I want to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, how many 100x pumps have you caught on altcoins? Probably zero. Statistically, I can confidently say you've caught zero. And two, if you want a 100x pump, then these crypto related equities, these mining stocks, tend to do a 10x from the bottom to the top. So with a little bit of leverage, obviously leverage is for experts only, you can quite easily turn that into a 100x, no problem, over the cycle of Bitcoin. So you do not need altcoins to make altcoin gains. You just need a little bit of leverage, good strategy, proper risk management, and a stock like this that will do 10, 15, or 20x. As of yesterday, Bitcoin's chart was looking incredibly nice. When we were at this stage right here, I was thinking, okay, here we go, here we go. We also have the MACD crossing bullish with a green histogram, as you can see, and we had the RSI breakout. So all of this looks set for big upside here for the price of Bitcoin. But as it stands, we are currently getting somewhat of a pullback. Now, this could, of course, be breakout, retest, resumption before a move higher. If I hop onto the logarithmic scale, you can see the dotted line is the one for the log scale, and we are still comfortably above that. So I'm going to continue to push this long. I did, of course, say when I took this long that I considered this a higher risk move because it was quite early in the cycle, and therefore I would have to be open to having to take two shots at this. If it rolls over and I get stopped out here and we get some kind of reversal and a swing, then we can enter the long on the swing, count that as a cycle low, which is right in the middle of the timing window, and then see what happens from there. But now I'm going to let the stop do the worrying. As you can see, this could easily turn out to be breakout, retest, resumption. So I don't want to go getting cute here or messing around, and like I said, flip it onto log, and we're comfortably above the logarithmic trend line with all four touches. The dollar needs to get above these local highs to confirm a true breakout here. Otherwise, downside is likely on the cards for the dollar. So the gold cycle tells me that this should be about to roll over because gold cycle is incredibly late now. It's very, very stretched. So I would think we're likely going to have to move this under here and then see a sharp reversal out of the price of gold. If we can get that, I will consider adding a long down here. And of course, I'll update you if I do that. In terms of the crypto-related equities, I think they're just waiting for Bitcoin to truly get a move on, to truly find this cycle low and go. It may have already found it, it may be confirming the breakout, or it may need to have one more dive down. Either way, we're right into this area of interest. We're probably going to get a breakout for Coinbase, and of course, that will be an ad from me, and I'll move the stop up. Same is true of MicroStrategy, so maybe a little bit more chop in here, hit the trend line and break out. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Riot smashed earnings according to this TradingView thing. I obviously don't look at the actual reports because why would I? I do expect, again, some kind of chop and a breakout for Riot, and that will be an ad from me. And the same is true of Marathon. If we can do some more chop in here, maybe double bottom with this local low and then break out, then of course we can add Marathon and see what the market can give. So overall, not a lot has changed from me. I'm afraid I'm going to continue to repeat myself for a little while. Could we see an inline with expectation CPI print today, or even a cold CPI print, and could that lead to some kind of big bounce here? Yes, but this is way too early in the cycle for me to be entertaining that is the cycle low, and therefore I would be expecting a lower high, a rollover that undercuts that low, and then we'll mark that as the swing. So as you can see, stop is choked up. Will I survive? Probably not, although maybe I will for a few more days before then we roll over. I don't believe this pullback is done here. I don't believe that this is going to be the end of it. So that is to be determined, of course. The NASDAQ seems like it should at least touch this yellow line, if not the red one. So we'll see again. We'll probably need to see a counter trend bounce that then resolves lower first. As ever, one day at a time. And of course, the Dow has clearly set a trend line. But I would think, given how many months, this was 8 or 9 months underneath this box, it seems reasonable to me that we'd at least have to come back and backtest it before we can move higher. So that's the update from me. As ever, take it one day at a time, see what the market can give. I'm in no rush here. CPI, there's always games around CPI, isn't there? And then we've got some more data coming out tomorrow. So we'll have to get through this week, examine the closes. I do think, though, we probably need to have some kind of counter trend bounce and then spend another week or two coming down before we can actually find those cycle lows. I'm certainly not interested in adding any equity exposure until next week at the earliest. However, I would be interested in adding crypto-related equities if Bitcoin can continue to follow through and they can break out, as I've been showing you over and over again. So if you made it this far, thank you. I hope you're doing well in life, and here's a bonus clip for you, which I hope you will enjoy.
If you have the notifications on, if you're good about being on time, and if you know what you're doing, then you can actually make a lot of money on these fun swing picks. And then the real advantage here is that when a bunch of us start putting our money in, it'll trigger a lot of the stuff across the entire internet, like on CoinMarketCap, and it'll go up to the top of these lists of the 24-hour gainers. Then once it does that, a lot of new people will come in, and our community will basically trick people into not really trick. I mean, our community will show a huge surge that will then make people see it going up and want to go in as well. So a bunch of new communities will want to come in, and that's really the advantage there. So make sure, join the Patreon very, very, very quickly right now if you have the notifications on, if you're good about being on time, and if